This is Find Your Dream Job, the podcast that helps you get hired, have the career you want, and make a difference in life. I'm your host, Mac Pritchard. I'm also the founder of Mac's List. It's a job board in the Pacific Northwest that helps you find a fulfilling career. Every Wednesday, I talk to a different expert about the tools you need to get the work you want. It's never been easier to apply for jobs online. In fact, it's so easy that many candidates do nothing but use job boards like the one we run at Mac's List. That's a mistake, says this week's guest. Swati Parikh is here to discuss why you need to talk to others to get the job you want. She's the founder of Greater Good Careers. It's a career and leadership coaching business for mission-driven professionals and lawyers, and she joins us from New York City. Well, let's jump right into it. Swati, why is it important to do more than apply online?
I think today, in the modern way that jobs are posted with thousands of potential applicants to any one job posting, your application often gets lost in the shuffle. It's really hard to stand out whenever there are so many applicants who want the same type of job as you. And so the way to get around that is to have conversations, to talk to people, to get clear on what the employers are looking for, to get a sense if it's a right fit for you, and then also to, potentially get your foot in the door by making a connection that can refer you for the job and get you out of that stack of thousands of applicants.
I want to talk more about the power of conversation. Before we get there, Swati, what happens in your experience as a coach with people who just focus on sending out applications? What happens next to those candidates?
Yeah, they get really frustrated. I often see on LinkedIn people talking about how they've applied to thousands of jobs, but haven't heard back and haven't gotten interviews, have no feedback essentially on what's happening and why they aren't hearing for employers. So the more that you have these conversations, the less likely you are to be spinning your wheels where you feel like you're sending applications out into the void and that it's just a big black hole that you're applying to, and who knows if you're going to hear back. So this really gives you a lot more control over the process when you have these conversations.
In your experience, why do people stick to the computer and just focus on applying online? What's going on there?
Yeah, it's really scary to apply for a job. It's so hard to put yourself out there, to tell people that you are job searching. And I think especially post-COVID, we are in a state of really being very insular and hiding and not being a part of our communities. And so sitting behind your computer, sending out applications, it feels like you accomplished something. It feels like you got something done. And at the same time, it allows you to play small a little bit. It allows you to hide and to not tell other people, to not ask for help. Asking for help is so hard. I've always struggled to ask for help because it makes you feel like, oh, people are going to be annoyed or they're going to be frustrated with me. They're going to think I'm, this desperate person. But really, often, people are happy to help. People want to help other people. And so getting stuck in that mindset of nobody wants to help me, or I'm not good enough for these jobs, or I can't tell people I'm job searching, I think that's what really holds people back.
In your experience, again, what happens when people do step away from the computer and start sending out, start actually setting up conversations and talking to people?
I think it brings a lot of energy into your job search. I think sitting behind your computer, again, can be very lonely and not engaging. It's just like rote sending out applications and not talking to people. So by getting out and talking to people, first, it gives you energy because hopefully you feed off the other people's energies you're talking to. You're getting good advice. You're getting good connections. You're hearing exactly what the employer wants in the interview process, what they're looking for in candidates, whether or not the job is the right fit. So, and by doing this, you spend a lot of time really narrowing down on what's right for you or not. So you're asking questions about whether the job is the right fit for you. Because if you continue to apply for jobs because just in your head it sounds like a good thing, but you haven't actually talked to anyone who has that job, you don't really get to assess whether or not it is the right fit for you first and to really hear what the job entails.
We talked a moment ago about how fear holds people back rather from from reaching out, and it's uncomfortable to ask for help, as you said. I also talk to candidates who say, "Well, Mac, I tried that. I sent out an email, and I didn't get a response. It didn't work for me." What do you say to listeners or viewers who have that objection, Swati?
It's very understandable. People are very busy, and especially if you're in a job that a lot of people want, you're likely getting a lot of requests for these informational interviews. And you can face a lot of rejection in this process of just not hearing back from people. And I always ask people whenever they say this, what's the worst that can happen? If you are asking someone for help, what's the absolute worst thing? And honestly, pretty much everyone says, I just won't hear back. I'm wasting my time. And so it is a bit of a numbers game. You have to send out multiple informational interview requests. And you also first have to create a list for yourself of employers who really interest you, and then start reaching out individually to people who work at the employers who interest you. So if you don't hear back, totally understandable, follow up once. And then if you still don't hear back, move on to somebody else at that same company who you want to talk to, and keep trying. And if you can't meet with them one-on-one, try going to events. That can be another way to meet people, and you're like face to face with them, and they have to talk to you and work through, like they have to respond at that moment.
You mentioned putting together a list of target employers. Why is that important? After all, you can sit down at a computer and look at LinkedIn or Indeed, any job board, and find thousands or hundreds of positions. Why do you recommend to your clients that they focus on target employers?
The job market is broad. There's so many opportunities and possibilities for you. So the more that you really narrow in on what it is you want, the easier it is for you. So start by making a list of 40 employers. Spend some time really researching who those employers are, where they're located, what kind of job postings they have available, and who you might know at those organizations as well. But having that narrowed down list isn't so you're not boiling the ocean. There are, a limited number of opportunities that you want to explore at this moment. And maybe you get through those 40 and nothing comes of it, and then you could add more employers to that list as well. So it's a growing list, but I would start at a smaller number and really rank who your top choices are at that moment before you just try to apply everywhere and just whatever job comes to you. It can be a lot more targeted and feel like you have a specific approach.
And how does having a list like that with 40 target employers, for example, help you in reaching out to others and talking about and stepping away from the computer and talking to others? How does that help you?
Yes. So you make the list. And I was just working with a client on this. Maybe that might be helpful just to talk about this. So she is wanting to move to a different city. She's never lived there. She doesn't know anyone there. And so, and she just found that she was just applying online, whatever job came, she wasn't hearing from anyone. So I said as a first step, make this list of 40 employers that you want to reach out to. And she spent, a couple hours doing this. She did a lot of research on organizations that would be of interest to her. And then she went and looked and see if any of them had job postings. Only one out of the 40 had a job posting listed. And then she went to LinkedIn and she looked at, who does she know potentially in this network? Who went to her university? She was a lawyer, so who went to her law school? She found someone who went to her law school. She contacted them. She got that person's contact information from her alumni office, and they had a great conversation. We prepared how she was going to talk to that person. She had this conversation, and then that person liked her so much, she introduced her to the executive director of the organization, and now she's moving forward with interviewing. So it can be really helpful to create that list, then you can look at LinkedIn, you can look at your alumni directory, you can look at connections through friends that you have, and really analyze who you might know there, and also look at the website and see which employees are listed there, because they could be potential contacts as well.
Okay. Well, let's pause here. We're going to take a break. When we come back, Swati Parikh will continue to share her advice on why you need to step away from your computer and talk to people. We're back in the Max List studio. I'm talking with Swati Parikh. She's the founder of Greater Good Careers. It's a career and leadership coaching business for mission-driven professionals and lawyers. And she joins us from New York City. Now, Swati, before our break, we were talking about why you need to talk to others to get the job you want. And we talked about the pitfalls of relying only on job boards and the benefits of what happens when you do step away from the computer and start talking to people in a strategic way. I love your story about the person you worked with who had a list of 40 employers, and that led to conversations that led to an interview at the organization she wanted to be at. So let's talk more about the how. And you mentioned in the first segment informational interviews. Why is it important to do informational interviews, and what happens when you do them?
So, an informational interview is a little bit distinctive from a regular interview. You should still treat it as a professional opportunity to connect with someone, and it could potentially lead to a job. So, you do want to come into it really prepared. And the idea is that you're asking the person you're meeting with a lot about their current job, how they got there, what the employer is like, what their day to day life is like. You can also ask them about their career, what their trajectory is for their potential job, what opportunities there are for leadership and growth, what employers are looking for. So, what kind of questions do they ask in interviews? What's the process for getting hired? And the idea is that you're building a relationship with the other person. You're making a friend potentially. So see it as friend building, like building your community. This is someone who can help you throughout your career. It doesn't have to be just this one time. It's information gathering. It's a way for you to figure out, is this the right fit for me? Is it not? I've had people do informational interviews and realize 10 minutes in, I really don't want to do this job. And then that's great to know that. So that's like fact fighting and figuring out what's right for you. And then the opportunity to really present yourself as a good candidate for this potential office as well, and to build a good relationship that then can lead to the next steps, which I'm happy to talk about.
Let's talk a little more about informational interviews. Before you walk into that room, what kind of questions do you suggest people prepare?
Yes, so I would make sure to research the person that you're meeting with, ask them, look at their background, look at their LinkedIn, research the company or organization where they work for, know if there are jobs posted on their site or on LinkedIn, and really know to not ask questions that are readily available on the internet. You want to ask questions that first you want to know, that will be helpful for you in your job search, and are not easily accessible online. So they might be questions about the person. So tell me a little bit about how you got into this job. What's your experience been like working here? How have you enjoyed your colleagues? What's your day-to-day like? What's your supervisor like? And then ask questions about the specific job that you're interested in. How can I get into a role like this? What are you looking for in candidates? What's the interview process like? What are some interview questions I can expect? How long is the process? How many rounds of interviews might I go through? And you can also ask questions about what the culture is like, and that can really help you in determining whether or not it's a right fit for you. So, how do you work with your colleagues? What's collaboration look like? What are the biggest challenges that you face in your job? What do you like about your work? What do you dislike? What would you like to change?
So it's an opportunity to learn about an organization, a field, a position. What would you say to someone who's listening and says, well, I tried that and I didn't get a job. I'm not sure that's a good use of my time.
Sure. So rarely does one informational interview lead to a job. And I often have people tell me, like, I hate this process. It's miserable. Why do I have to do this? I can't ask this person for a job. Why would I continue doing this? And the goal is not to necessarily ask in that moment for a job. It's to develop your contacts. It's to grow your network. A network is something you're going to need throughout your career, not just in this one job application process. So as you're going through it, see it as a fact-finding mission, as a relationship developer, but not necessarily immediately going to lead to a job. But the best informational interviews do lead to potential opportunities. So they could lead to a real interview. So you could be talking to this person, and at the end, you could say, I really enjoyed meeting you. What would be the next step if I was interested in applying for this job? Or I've already applied. Would you be able to, pass my contact information, my resume along to your supervisor? Something like that. And that hopefully leads to something.
I know that in your work with your clients, you stress the importance of vulnerability. Why is it important to be vulnerable when you're going out and talking to people about your job search and what you're looking for?
I think it's scary to say that you're looking for a job. It is saying that potentially where you are right now is not working, or if you were laid off or fired, that the last job did not work out well. And so you do have to put yourself out there. You do have to say, I am looking for a job, and what you're doing really excites me, and I'd love to do what you're doing. Now tell me how to do that. So the vulnerability part is not that you're sharing all of your emotions or, all that you're going through in your job search. It's more about being honest about the fact that whatever you're doing now is not the right fit for you, and spinning it to show that what you want to do next is the better fit for you. And that's why you're talking to this person.
You mentioned a moment ago that one benefit of informational interviews is that you can talk to somebody inside an organization that from the outside might seem like your ideal employer and the position they have, the ideal job, and then learn, no, I don't want to be here. What are some of the other benefits of having informational interviews and getting out and talking to people when you're looking for work?
Mm-hmm. So I often encourage people I work with to do informational interviews in order to prepare for an actual interview. So that can be a really useful tip. So asking, exactly like I've said this before, so apologies if I'm repeating myself, but what the employer is looking for. And so you can really spend that time thinking about, how can I make myself look like the best candidate? And having the insider information on what questions they're going to ask in the interview is really helpful because then you can prepare and kind of what are the points as you're preparing for the interview, what are the specific points you want to talk about your past history, your experiences, and how they relate to what that employer is looking for. So you're thinking about what the needs are of the employer and how you fit those needs.
Well, it's been a great conversation, Swati. Now tell us what's next for you.
So my primary focus right now is working individually with clients. So I work as a career and leadership coach for clients throughout the entire job process. So they come to me usually whenever they're feeling like they're struggling with their job search, they don't know where to go, and I work with them through that process. I am an accountability partner, a problem solver, a thought partner, and a cheerleader. And so I really love working with clients when they're struggling through their job search and really helping them build the confidence and the clarity that they need in order to get the job that they want.
Well, terrific. I know that our audience can learn more about you and your work by visiting your website, www.greatergoodcareers.com. And you also invite members of our audience to connect with you on LinkedIn. When you do reach out to Swati, please let her know that you saw and heard her on Find Your Dream Job. Now, Swati, given all the great advice you've shared today, what's the one thing you want our audience to remember about why you need to talk to others to get the job you want?
Yes, I think that in order to get the job you want, you really have to do a lot of research and find out what employers want and whether or not the job is the right fit for you. So that's how talking to people, doing informational interviews, going to networking events can really be a fact-finding mission and also an opportunity for you to meet new people and build your network.
Next week, our guest will be Carissa Carasy. She's the founder of Future Forward Careers. Carissa's company helps burned-out teachers and mission-driven professionals reclaim energy, rediscover purpose, and move into fulfilling work. Making a career pivot can be challenging, and to do it successfully, you need to commit to the change. Join us next Wednesday when Carissa Carasy and I talk about giving yourself permission to change careers. Until next time, thanks for letting us help you find your dream job. This show is produced by Max List. Susan Thornton Howe schedules our guests and writes our newsletter. Lisa Kislenberry Anderson manages our social media and creates our transcripts. Our sound engineer and editor is Anna McLean, and our music is by Freddie Trujillo. This is Mac Pritchard. See you next week.